What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Sorry I worried you guys. Still, Veldora, I can contact you from pretty much anywhere, so if I get in trouble, I'll be counting on you.
You can, Master?
Oh, that's why I told you not to worry.
Ramirez was awestruck. Veldora, probably hiding his embarrassment, decided to act all high and mighty as he changed the subject.
But enough about that. If you're fine now, can you go listen to those guys for a bit?
Following Veldora's gaze, I found Trainee, Zoe, and a suspicious-looking man tied up with rope. I noticed that the first two were there before now, but what was up with that other dude? Trainee was currently chugging some fruit juice, looking utterly exhausted but otherwise unhurt, so I let her be. Instead, I glanced toward Zoe, hoping he'd clue me in.
Well, once I reached the site Moss told me about, I found this man fighting Trainee. His name is Laplace, and he's a nemesis of ours.
So it was Laplace under that rope? He looked pretty beat up, but not dead, at least.
Why is he still alive?
Benimaru asked coldly. He wasn't even trying to hide his murderous rage, which was rare for him.
I tried to kill him, but he kept insisting he had something important to talk to you about, Sir Rimuru.
That has to be a trap.
Benimaru replied, taking out his sword once more. The moment he did, the limp Laplace leapt up like a caterpillar. Pretty nimble move, as silly as it looked. I couldn't help but let out a couple laughs.
Wait a minute, man. Stop laughing and keep your people away from me.
You'd better watch your tone.
Now Zoe was raging, too. But that was still nothing compared to Benimaru, who was moments away from cutting the guy in half. I stepped in to calm him down for the time being.
Calm down, alright? We're in the middle of a truce with Yuki, remember? If you brought him all the way here, we could at least hear him out.
Zoe nodded at this. Being able to keep his moral compass straight despite his rage showed just how patient he could be. Benimaru, realizing he was wrong, put his sword away.
So what's your story?
Damn, you guys are super scary. That gal over there refuses to listen to me, and she's gotten way stronger since last time, too. The other dude's a little more sensible, but his eyes are just so cold, you know? And that one. Huh?
Don't start with that, Benimaru. You're revealing too much of your old self there. Clearing my throat, I tried to steer us away from this gloomy atmosphere.
So anyway, Yuki asked me to give you a message.
Laplace, reading the tea leaves correctly, signaled his appreciation to me as he began explaining why he was there. He could have just done that to begin with, I thought, but I lent him an ear anyway.
And that's the long and short of it. So basically, you guys better keep an eye out for Bernie and Jiwoo, got it?
Benimaru and I looked at each other in silence. You could have told me a little bit earlier, dude. According to Laplace, Yuki has a guy named Damrata working for him. He's one of the head bosses of Cerberus, a secretive crime ring. After a tip from Gadra and a little investigation, it came out that Damrata was suspected of attempting to assassinate Gadra, although Yuki hadn't given him any such order. I say, suspected, but it was almost certain, actually. Having made that judgment, Yuki reviewed Damrata's past actions, and in the process, he discovered a few more suspicious things. This led him to believe that Masayuki's party members, people arranged for him by Damrata, might have had some kind of ulterior motive. In a rush, he assigned Laplace, who was just back from another mission, to relay the message to me. As Laplace's story unfolded, Trainee began to look visibly paler over time. Now I knew full well why Laplace hadn't told me the news earlier.
Well, if that's what the story is, you gotta give it to me sooner, alright?
I tried. I told her over and over again that it's really important. But she was all, ooh, I'd never trust you, and all that. Never even gave me the time o' day.
It's because you're so fishy, all right? And besides, I still bitterly recall the last time you escaped me, so I was determined not to make the same mistake again.
Well, you kinda used a little too much force, lady. I kept shouting at you about how this was work-related stuff, and I'm super serious about it, but it was all, shut up, I don't care what you say. You didn't listen to one word from me, did you?
Seeing this ugly argument unfold before me answered all my questions.
So you've been fighting this entire time?
Yeah, like, cut me a break.
Laplace looked seriously disgruntled. By this point, this entire time would have been a good 10 days or so. I'd be a little sullen about it, too, I think.
I'm so deeply sorry.
Realizing how badly she'd jumped to conclusions, Trainee apologized to me, her face bright red. But would any of us here blame her for it? If you asked any of us to trust Laplace a little bit more, we'd think you were out of your minds. I mean, he's still acting all fishy. I don't think you should judge a book by its cover, but he's constantly up to one suspicious caper or another. You'd have serious problems if you ever trusted a villain like him. So maybe she made an honest mistake, but I'd never blame this one on trainee. Benimaru, inches away from lopping his head off a moment ago, looked incredibly uncomfortable, as did Zoe. I'm rather surprised he put up with Laplace long enough to bring him here, actually.
Well, what's done is done. Let's just stop worrying about it and let bygones be bygones, alright?
It was in the past now, and I didn't want to keep it on my mind. So let's just talk our way out of this. I had a battlefield to focus on, and there was no telling what would happen up there until the end. With this in mind, we turned our attention to the big screen. A visibly annoyed Calgario was waiting for a report. It had been 2 whole days since he dispatched 100 of his best men and women into the labyrinth, and he was no longer hiding his frustration at the fact that he hadn't heard from them. Well, not frustration, actually. He might have looked miffed on the outside, but on the inside, his heart was filled with anxiety. He had decided to attack the labyrinth after being dazzled by visions of big money and tons of magic crystals. He still didn't regret that. If they wanted to keep their backs protected, they couldn't have simply ignored the Demon Lord's domain. So Calgario rejoiced as he saw all the treasure being taken out of the labyrinth, more than even he had imagined. Looking back, however, it all seemed like the Demon Lord Rimuru's trick. Calgario realized that now, and he cursed his own cowardly ways, but at the same time, he began to fear that the Demon Lord would defeat him, and he'd have no way to block this.
Damn it, is there any report yet?
His staff couldn't count the number of times he had bellowed that so far. Nobody had an answer for him, but now a murmur could be heard from outside the camp.
What's going on? What's happening?
Calgario's question was answered by a private who came rushing in.
Reporting, sir. We have just rendezvoused with troops from the Magitank force.
What? Calgario thought. No matter how nimble and rugged those Magitanks were, there was no way they wouldn't hear any sounds from them before they arrived. There were no messages about this at all, so the state of their allied forces was still an enigma. Given all that, he had a bad feeling, and it was growing by the second. And then his fears came true.
We're back, sir.
The woman who entered Calgario's field tent was a fetching young lady who looked out of place on a battlefield. She was actually Misha the Lover, one of the 3 bosses of Cerberus. She was ordered by Yuki to carry out a scheme to ensnare Calgario, and so she was participating in this operation. She really was chief of staff for the Empire's armored division, however, serving Calgario with decent enough competence. But she was assigned to the Magitank force for this op, a move Calgario made for her own safety. It wasn't a deployment Misha was very happy with, given that her mission here was to monitor Calgario's movements. Unfortunately, she was in no position to protect it, so she pretended to be grateful for the favor as she kept reporting back to Yuki. These reports, of course, included the crushing defeat of the Magitank force, and after that took place, she carefully left the field, making sure no monsters found her, and regrouped with the main force there.
Misha, you're all right?
Yes, sir, Calgario.
Misha gave him a bewitching smile. Even with her stained, dirty uniform, her beauty hadn't faded one bit. Seeing her was a relief, but Calgario hadn't forgotten about his duty.
So what happened to the rest? How long will all of them rendezvous with the main force?
He spoke quickly, peppering her with questions.
Please, sir, just 1 minute. There's no point in panicking now.
Huh? What do you mean?
They've been wiped out.
Huh?
The Empire's proud Magitank force, along with 100 of its elite airships, have all been reduced to ashes.
The bewitching smile was still on her face.
That can't be. What the hell are you talking about?
Calgario smiled in disbelief. Misha remained silent, and her silence forced him to believe her.
They're really all wiped out?
Yes, sir.
So the only surviving members of the armored force are the people here right now?
That would be the case, sir.
Hearing this, Calgario hung his head. The rest of his staff followed suit, their faces pale. Their invasion was now a complete failure. Even if they managed to conquer the labyrinth here, countless thousands of soldiers had lost their lives, and there'd be no way to escape the blame for it. Emperor Rudra would never forgive Calgario and his staff.
What should we do?
He whispered. The staff had no answer, but then Misha spoke up.
We should retreat.
What?
I had a quick look around earlier. It looks like you're not having much luck in the labyrinth, either. I suppose labyrinths are meant to be explored, not invaded by vast armies.
Did that Yuki boy say that?
Yes, sir. He said that only our elites should be unleashed into the maze.
Ridiculous. I've sent our damn elites in.
A furious Calgario shouted back at the calm, polite Misha. He was right. In fact, just 2 days prior, he sent in the best forces he could think of, alongside all the elites in the restructured armor corps, proud to be the Empire's strongest force. There were over 500,000 people down there. They couldn't have possibly hoped for anything better. All those elites would no doubt congregate in the labyrinth, and even now, they must have been marching for the bottom. Calgurio believed that. If he didn't, his heart would have been gripped with fear. Still, Misha was relentless.
But even after swallowing up the most elite members of our force, the labyrinth is alive and well. And yes, it's possible that there is still a battle going on inside, but we have no way of finding out what's going on, and it'll be difficult to send yet more reinforcements, won't it?
Enough.
All you can do is wait for our allies to leave the labyrinth alive, right?
I said enough. Listen, Misha, you have nothing to worry about. The higher-ups have been given necklaces that can resurrect them. As long as you're wearing it, if you die in the labyrinth, you'll be resurrected outside of it. And the fact that nobody's come out yet proves the invasion's going just fine.
Calgurio knew full well that this was a rather optimistic view, but as the general in charge of the full force, he had no choice but to resort to it right now. However, Misha's pursuit didn't end there. Unlike the other staff, Misha had enthralled Calgurio. Even if she riled him here, she was confident she'd be allowed to do whatever she wanted.
But you haven't confirmed that the prototype necklaces actually work yet, have you? Sir Yuki said that if the bracelets were generated by someone's special skill, it'd be impossible to make a copy of it.
That silenced Calgurio. There was no way he could tell his troops to die for the sake of this experiment. Just like Misha said, he had been sending his comrades without having a firm idea if the necklaces worked. They were just meant as an insurance policy if something went awry, and Calgurio understood that. But Misha was right, and he was wrong. You can't lead an army division through strength alone. Strength is needed, yes, but nobody too incompetent to read the current situation correctly could ever hold that position for long. But Calgurio never believed there was such a thing as a structure that over 500,000 elite troops couldn't conquer. This was a formidable force, one that could reduce multiple large cities to ashes. Even in the worst-case scenario, they should have been able to destroy the labyrinth and escape, he thought. And that wasn't all. Many people had already died, he knew. If he decided to abandon his fellow comrades inside the labyrinth, Calgurio's name would be forever enshrined as the incompetent general who oversaw a historic defeat.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of AnimeKouhai supporters: Chadvota, Smexy, Kayode De Peza, Carl Stefan Bernadel, Tank Bailey, Gareth Hashimoto, Cam, Zach Rosen, Byron. This is not my username. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.